click out of a window, you lose it. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of I Can Do This All Day. I'm Dan, the part-time Avenger, and with me is Mark, the resident Jedi.
Hello there. We've all waited for this movie for a minute. It was on, it was off, it was back on, and now we've both seen it, and we're super excited to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
That is correct. It is the latest addition to the MCU and the last addition for one James Gunn and the Guardians of the Galaxy, at least this iteration of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So here we are talking about it. And before we jump into it, let's talk about the ambiance and the environment. Mark, how did you see it?
I saw it on a Tuesday afternoon on half price ticket day at an AMC close to my house.
I waited, bastard. You cheap bastard.
I was out of town until late Monday, so this was the first day I could go see it. I used some babysitting credit, and me and my wife went to see it. I didn't buy tickets till day of, and it was looking empty or whatever. And then I go to buy tickets like a couple hours beforehand, and the whole theater is full, except for the first two rows. So I sat in B9 and B10 and in the second row, and it was the best second row theater experience ever. It was like watching IMAX in a comfy chair. It was. I was. You told me about this.
Does it feel like you're cross-eyed?
No,
anymore.
It was just totally. I was just like, oh, this is great. You just lean it back and you're good to go because the recline absolutely helps. I honestly would take those seats again
over like further back.
Because so here's my reasoning, and hear me out. I don't want to sit next to anybody if I can help it. And you know what seats never have anybody in it? Those first two rows.
True.
And man, I put my popcorn on the seat next to me. Me and my wife could spread out, not like she still sat next to me, but it was nice. It's just like, oh, it's nice. Just spread it out a little bit. It was all good. It was not a very enthusiastic crowd, I will say. I didn't go to a midnight or an opening day, and I miss those. But such is life with a kid you can't take with you.
It's those cheap Tuesday bastards. Why can't you be more enthusiastic for us? God damn it.
Dude, I didn't even know it was a cheap Tuesday. I didn't know they started that again. Shout out AMC, because I'm going to check out and I'm like, oh, did I only add one ticket? Did I only add one ticket to the thing? Why is it only $18? I paid more for popcorn and a drink than the movie, which is normal, but by a lot.
I went to go see it Saturday morning, opening weekend, with the family. We had our popcorn, we had our drinks and everything. And then I went to go see it again by myself out here on the West Coast in California, in San Jose. And I saw it in 3D. So I saw a standard 2D and then 3D.
Geez, 3D even like good anymore? Like, I don't think there was anything in this movie that was like a cool 3D effect.
I mean, you notice the difference of like the depth and the background of things, but I wouldn't say that it's like, oh my God, it's so much better in 3D. It wasn't shot in 3D. It just happens to be the 3D converted.
Yeah, they render it.
So, yeah. But, if you like a movie, you see it in different formats and or you see it multiple times. I figured since I'm a member of one Cinemark, and actually I'm a part owner Cinemark, by the way. So if you ever need anything, just let me know.
Yeah. But, I'm sure that one stock unit gets you a lot these days.
Hey, part owner, man, part owner. But I've very few movies I go see again in theaters, and I can count on one hand what movies I've seen at least this year more than once, and that's going to be John Wick 4 and Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and that's it. Those are the only two movies I saw repeated in the theaters.
So I haven't seen anything twice. I haven't seen anything twice this year. The last movie I went to the theater to see more than once was something from Star Wars. I don't even know if it was The Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker. It might have been Rise of Skywalker. But I will tell you, man, this new quick to streaming kind of setup they got where you can buy it for $30 in a couple weeks. Like I if I'm really excited, that's my move though. I'll buy it. Like the Mario movie, Top Gun, stuff like that. As soon as it hits, buy. And I pay basically what I would pay to see it again in the theater, and I own it digitally.
I am not a fan of buying digitally just because of I like the physical media. You know, because it's one thing you can download, and most times you buy like a Blu-ray or something, you get the digital copy anyway. So I would rather have that physical media along with the digital copy, and that's how I watch them. You know, I might only watch it the digital way, but at the same time, if I don't know, Skynet takes over, which is going to happen apparently in 10 years because the AI is so goddamn smart, at least I'll have my physical copies. So as the nuclear holocaust is going on, I'll be able to put my copy of John Wick Chapter 4 in the Blu-ray player and watch it.
Yeah, no, I buy all my movies from Skynet. So Apple supplies me with everything I need.
I don't know, man. If you sign off on those updates on the Apple privacy things,
I specifically type every time, unwilling to join the human centipede.
that's what I was gonna say. Like you're gonna be asked to mouth to somebody really soon. So back to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
No ass to mouth in this movie. No ass to mouth, but they did use their one curse word.
They did.
Did you notice that as a PG-13 rating, and they used the curse word?
The only MCU movie that dropped an F-bomb, I believe.
Yeah, that well, I mean, yeah.
But even James Gunn was saying he wasn't sure if they were going to let him do this. So he was like, this is the one F-bomb that I wrote. If they take this out, I'm going to be so bummed. But they left it in. And I think Feige was just like, you know what? We messed up. And yeah, exactly. We messed up. We fired this guy, but let's send him off properly. Let James Gunn cook. And God damn it, they served up a hell of a dish.
You know, it would be really funny if when it came to Disney Plus, the F-bomb was edited.
Ooh.
Fudge.
Get in the freaking car. Oh yeah. Ugh. Okay, but let's get into the movie. We're kind of jumping ahead here, but let's talk about that opening scene with a bunch of little cute baby raccoons all huddled around, all nimbly bimbly.
Trash pandas.
Yeah. What did you think about that opening scene? And, you know, what were you expecting to happen? Because there is that music, that score that is just like something bad is going to fucking happen. Like I could feel the tension in the air.
Yeah.
I could feel it all the way down to my plums.
All the way down to your plums. I as I told you the last episode, I downloaded or made a playlist out of this playlist. So I knew that Creep was the first song, and I knew it was the acoustic version. And I was like, oh, this is going to just start on such a down, and I'm so excited about it. I had no idea what the context of the movie was. I just saw the music. And there were certain songs I'm like, oh, they're not going to use this a lot. And there's certain songs like, I have no idea how they're going to use this. But
I'm not even talking about that yet. I'm talking about the initial scene with the raccoons where the hand is just going towards them.
I mean, you kind of knew that was coming, right? I mean, even me who watched no trailers knew that they were going to talk about Rocket and his origin in this.
So we open up with the movie with the little baby raccoons, adorable, swarming around in a cage. and then this big ominous figure with the music. Just it kind of sets the tone for the movie, right? It's not. It's almost like a very scary type of looming presence with the. I'm assuming it's the high evolutionary, which we know that it is, and yeah, and then it goes right into that hand reaching for who we assume is Rocket, and sure shit it is. It kind of goes flash forward into, which is a really cool, like a morph scene, right? Like it's just an aging of the face, and then it's Rocket in present day, and there you go. You've got some '90s, a different version of Creep, but it kicks off into the song. So tell me your thoughts about that. What you're thinking as this is happening.
I was wondering how they were going to order it, right? Because we knew they were going to take the journey through Rocket, right? Like we knew this was going to happen regardless of what we've watched and what we've heard. We knew it was coming. So to see that he was really a baby trash panda, and then to get the ominous hand, which is represented in so many other movies and video games. The hand's coming to get you, right? um we knew we were going to get that story from the beginning, so I was excited about it. And as far as Creep, by far the best version is the acoustic version by 1,000,000%. And I'd mentioned this, that I was listening to the playlist in quotes for a while and was just super happy with what they did and how they did it. So no complaints on my part. Really excited.
I've never heard of the acoustic version before, and so I was a little bit bummed. I was like, the only song that I knew was just the radio version, and but it turned out like okay, I can dig it, and it was interesting though. I was like, huh, this is kind of a strange song to be playing at this point, but when you really think about it, and if you think about the previous movies of Rocket's kind of keeping himself distance from everyone and just being that that person that will always cast some type of insult, while making it seem like his shit don't stink. He really views himself as a creep, a weirdo, a loser. And yeah, I think I didn't really catch that and the significance of it until the second viewing. So I thought it was like a great opening song to this.
I liked that he was singing along with it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you knew he was doing that vibing out, chilling thing, which is, that's what we all do with our Zooms or Zooms, not Zooms. Um, so yeah, no, I was pleasantly surprised there. Um, and then it just went into this, it continued this absolutely somber mode.
I rewatched Guardians of the Galaxy 2 in anticipation for this. And I actually rewatched a little bit of Guardians 2 after I saw the first viewing of Volume 3. And that initial scene where they're, Rocket is setting up the music before they battle the big, is it Amelisk or whatever it's called? And he's saying like, "Oh, Quill wants this music, so that's why I'm setting this up so we can listen to music while we battle." And Quill's just saying like, "No, this is a really bad idea." So I think Rocket at that point, in hindsight, you get to see that Rocket is starting to pick up influence from Peter, and so they're becoming friends in a different type of way where it's like you're when you have a friend back in the day and they kind of mimic what they do or what you do, it's kind of cool that Rocket is mimicking what Star Lord does, because it's just an interesting way for his character development and his growth as a character, or his wanting to have a friend.
They're mixtape buddies, bro. It's straight up right there. They're mixtape buddies.
It does, but I found such an appreciation on the Volume 2 viewing that I was like, oh my god, yeah, Rocket and Quill are friends. And even though they banter and give each other shit during the little asteroid Star Wars Empire ripoff scene, it's cool to see that there is some friendship there. Because if you didn't watch Guardians, the Christmas special, you don't necessarily get that they're that friendly. Yeah, they go on adventures and everything, but they kind of give each other shit. So I like seeing those, not callbacks, but going back and appreciating the first movie and the second movie based off of what I know and how Guardians wraps up.
That makes sense. That makes
What
a
did you
lot of
think
sense.
of Quill being a drunk?
I don't it almost feels out of character, but it makes sense in a way. I don't remember early for his character him, using any substances or anything like that. So it is weird.
I don't think it fit at all
Yeah.
because there's quite a bit of time from you see him kind of sad and somber during Christmas uh, for the Christmas special, but you can only assume that him, along with the rest of the Guardians and Thor, had been partying and hanging around for a while. And by the time you see him in three, like, oh, he's drunk in a tavern? Like, this is weird. And is it simply because he's mourning Gamora or he misses Gamora? I don't know, man. That's a long ass time to mourn someone or miss someone.
Is it? I mean, it wasn't that long, was it?
If how long was Thor with them? How long did it take for him to get from dad bod to god bod?
I mean, we don't know.
Yeah,
We don't know what that kind of metabolism is like.
yeah, but they went on a lot of adventures, so I can only assume that yes. And I'm not saying like you break up with someone or someone dies, or even though they came back, even though they're not the same person. I'm not saying that there isn't sadness there,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it was really in place for him to be portrayed that way. I get it because it throughout the rest of the movie, Mantis kind of tells Drax to kind of tell him like as to what's going on, and it makes Quill realize that like yeah, I just go around the galaxy going from woman to woman, and when I found someone that I love, that now I need to either get drunk or try and find something else. Like there's always something that he needs to do.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Um, I don't know. It's I agree that it's out of character, right? It's out of character, but grief makes you do weird stuff, man.
If he was a dare kid back in the day and it was really big back when he was a young boy, I don't know. I think that he would not be he'd be like, ooh, alcohol's bad. It's that 80s kid, right?
Mhm. It is. It is. I think he left Earth before the Dare program.
Maybe. You're probably right. You're probably right. But speaking of alcohol, let's go into a question as to what could have happened for us when we were young, or maybe when we were adults. Have you
Sure.
ever been carried out of a place drunk?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely have. I definitely have. I got a few good stories about that. And I think that the most embarrassing one was it was a while, it was at least a decade ago. I was in my like mid-20s, and it was a friend's birthday party, a work friend at a club that he promoted for in the city, which was like right by shout out OG Rock and Roll McDonald's, which is no longer there in downtown Chicago. So this crew of folks all went down to the club. Not my frequent, but we were all buying shots and drinks, and we were ordering shots and getting rocks glasses full of booze. So we just got tanked, and we got escorted up a set of stairs that went around a foyer into the VIP area, and that's where the lights went out. Um, I'm told that on the way back down the stairs, I may have vomited over the stairs, the side of the stairs onto people.
Ooh, rough.
And then I got delivered. I lived with my parents at the time, and I got delivered to my mom at like 2 a.m. It was pretty.
Wait a second. You went to a bar in Chicago and you were home by 2 a.m.
I don't know what time it was, dude. I'm assuming it was that. I have no idea.
Shit doesn't pop off until midnight in Chicago. So you were there for like 30 minutes and then they drove you
Bro,
home?
2 a.m. is just I don't know when I got delivered, but somebody knocked on my parents' door and dropped me off.
Jeez.
And I got put back into I got escorted to bed, and my shoes were on in the morning. So it was, I can only imagine what that situation was like, but was not the last time that I had to be taken care of due to drinking, but only that I can think of one other time. What about you? I know that
Um,
you're just such a straight-laced gentleman.
I'm a model citizen. I'm not much of a drinker, but I did get my fair share of drunken nights back in the college days and early 20s. But I don't have any stories where I got carried off, or where like I passed out drunk and someone needed to carry me. But I will say a funny story happened when I was drunk. I believe it was like a college graduation party, and I was already drunk, and we were gonna sleep over at the graduation party. So I said like, "Oh, I didn't bring anything. Drive me back, and then let me get my stuff to come back, and we'll crash there." And so I left the party to go home, and then my friend drove me, obviously, so because no drinking and driving for me. And here's the embarrassing, funny story about it. She drove me back, and then I'm like, "Oh God, I need to go to the bathroom." And so I go to the bathroom, and instead of just like, standing there and going, I sit down, and there was a wall right next to it. I just put my head next to the wall as I'm going, because it's like that long, I've been drinking all night type of piss, like right there. And I wake up like 45 minutes later. And so, like, oh shit. And so I finally run back out. Like, I grab my stuff that I was going to crash over at my friend's house, and my ride, she like had fallen asleep waiting for me because I fell asleep on the toilet. So it was just a funny way for me to wake up and like kind of freak out, because like I was still drunk, and I was like, "Oh, what the hell's going on?" And I look at my watch, 45 minutes later, like, "Oh fuck, get back." She's sleeping in the car. I was like, "What the fuck happened?" I was like, "Sorry, my parents were saying something to me." Like, I didn't want to say I fell asleep on the shitter. I didn't want to say that, but here it is. Truth comes out about 20 years later.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, haven't I don't. I've probably, I can't say that I haven't fallen asleep on the shitter at some point, but probably not hammers. I don't know.
So I wanted to say, like, so when Quill passes out and he grabs uh, Nebula's arm, and he's like, "I love you, Gamora." What were your thoughts on that when you watched it?
I thought that they were trying to lead towards a relationship between those two.
Yeah, right? Didn't it
Like
seem
they were
that
gonna
way?
go that way, but I'm glad they didn't. That'd have sucked.
Yeah. But it's very interesting because Karen Gillan, she does such a great job as Nebula that you almost believe that, right? The way that she played that is that, oh, he calls out to Gamora, and you could look at it two ways. You could look at it as like she feels bad for him and she misses her sister because she's not around anymore,
Mhm.
or yeah, she wishes that Peter was saying, oh, I love you, Nebula. I don't know. You could play it both ways.
I think
Um,
she's wishing that anybody says I love you, Nebula.
she's such a hardened exterior though, and
That's
she's
it,
all
man.
machine pretty much. So I don't know. It's
Mhm.
interesting.
But is she fully functional like Data?
I would say so. Do you see
Well,
that
then
fucking arm that she had where she just blew the shit out of everyone? It
I,
was awesome.
I like how she's gonna blow the shit out of everybody with her fancy nanobot arm.
Awesome. So cool. So cool.
Her
Um,
fancy rocket arm.
yeah, yeah. And speaking of Rocket, uh, Rocket takes the the Zune, which would pisses off Quill, and he brings it back to his place after Quill's put to bed and passed out. And guess who comes in just out of the sky with uh, that awesome song. Oh God, who it was by Heart. What's the name of the song? Fuck.
Crazy on you.
Crazy on You. Yeah, Crazy on You. Such a cool lead up where he's just like going through the depths of the galaxy and he's on a fucking mission. He looked badass. And I don't know if you something that's even funnier though is all of the gifs that have come out or memes that have come out of like when you ate 25 tacos from Taco Bell and you're just ready to go to the bathroom and like that song's playing and he's flying through space. It's just kind of funny.
Do you have another bathroom story you want to share? Or
No, I'm good. It was just that just happened to be sheer coincidence where I saw that on a video. But so we get introduced to Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock, what are you thinking when he just plows through the walls and everything? And what are your thoughts on your initial taste of Will Poulter as Adam Warlock?
I think I was like, why the fuck is he just smashing everything? Adam Warlock was such an intellectual character in the comics. And I'm like, okay, is he still mad about the batteries? Because that was a long time ago.
That was weeks ago.
And and why is he why is he attacking Rocket? Like, whatever. And
So those are your initial thoughts,
I'm just
right?
like, well, that was direct.
Yeah, right after him. Um, so I don't know a whole lot about Adam Warlock. All I remember is like the one shitty comic that I got, and I didn't really know a whole lot. I have heard that or read that he's like this really powerful being, but apparently there is a little bit of accuracy as to how he was in the comics. So he's a baby when he's first introduced, essentially. So he's like a full grown man, but intellect of a child. So very similar to how he gets introduced here in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yeah, my Adam Warlock was the main character in the Infinity Gauntlet story, and like was the leader of that effort to down Thanos,
Yeah.
not baby Huey.
Do you have a problem with it though?
I With great power should come great responsibility, not great dopiness. We have a Drax. We don't need the goldenrod boy.
So I agree with you that like, well, why would you make him stupid? But it makes sense as you go throughout the movie. It turns out that he was taken from the cocoon too early by the High Evolutionary, which the High Evolutionary states that like he created the Sovereign. He created Aisha, who then created Adam, and it comes out in the story that like, yeah, I created you, and you were supposed to be just a cosmetic type of experiment, and then your egos just got so inflated. And so it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting because he even says to
He called
them
him a
that,
beautiful idiot. Yeah.
yeah, you guys are beautiful idiots. Like, they're nothing special. You're not even my perfect race. You were just an experiment, one of many. Yeah. That's all you are.
Yeah, Skeletor bugged me in this movie, but I don't know.
We'll get to him in a second, but let's talk about that, like that battle, like as he freaking holds his own against the
Well, he
Guardians. But
levels. Go
say it
ahead.
again.
He levels everybody. It's like not even fair. You're watching and you're just like, is this going to be a really short movie? Just have a lot of after credit scenes. Like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, but at least it shows how dominant he could be, how strong he is, how fast, his powers. Um, Nebula does get a cool scene where she puts on her gear and just like just shoots a laser beam or wherever the hell it is at him, and he just goes flying, which is pretty cool. So it's cool to see that it's not just a flat out decimation of the Guardians of the Galaxy, who is like the team with the utmost of highest reputations and in the galaxy. So it's nice to see that they can put up a fight, but it is interesting because he is beating the shit out of everyone. And yeah, then you have Rocket that gets shot in the chest and flies back like a million feet, and everyone now is going to his aid.
Was it just me, or did she have like? Did Nebula have a bunch of Stark tech in this movie?
Rocket Tech. Rocket Tech is a lot different compared to Stark Tech.
I don't know, man. That suit looked a lot like Gwyneth Paltrow's with the little things in the back, the thrusters and it looked very Starky.
Yeah, but Stark Tech isn't the best in the galaxy. So Rocket, I think there's a throwaway line somewhere that Rocket made some uh, modifications for
Yeah,
Nebula. So I think that's what it was. Rocket's fucking smart, which is crazy, and you don't think about it, but when you look back at the previous movies, like, oh yeah, he's the one like making all of his guns. He's the one who gets them out of prison. So you get to see a little bit of his backstory, and then you understand, like, holy shit, this raccoon broke out of a prison 22 times, 23 if you count the first Guardians movie, and yeah, he has that skill set because he just has a knack for putting things together.
he's a smart little trash panda. So after updated Rocket Tech Nebula, stabby stabs, the golden boy, um, we figure out that Rocket's really damaged, hurt. I don't even know. And then they pull what I would assume is more Rocket Tech out in these fancy med packs that rebuild everything. Like they fix the broken arm, the thing, and then Rocket has encoded things. Like, don't you think he would have disabled that shit? Like, I'm trying to understand why he worked so hard on Nebula and not himself.
He might not have known it was there. And if he did know it was there, he didn't have a code to bypass it, I guess. I mean, maybe you're right. I mean, I don't know. Like you would think that if he ever got hurt, he could do a scan on himself and they would be able to see that stuff. Because it looked like there was like a Matrix type sentinel critter on his heart. That's what it looked like, the kill switch, if you will.
Yeah, and it also looked like I mean they did so many they did the X-ray and Guardians 1 when they went to prison and shit like that. I
Yeah.
thought would have like handled that, but it did not apparently. But I don't know. I was like, okay, well, it's fine. It's a plot device and it's there. And now we need to chase the backstory of Rocket. And I was excited about that, figure out where it goes. And then, Nebula's got contacts. She's got peoples. So they go out and it turns out the peoples, surprise, are the Ravagers who nobody's excited to see, even though at the end of Guardians 2, they were all buddy buddy.
True, true. That was a little bit weird, but it's not like um, Stakar, who, surprise, surprise, Sylvester Stallone made it to this movie. It's not like he was part of the same faction as Quill. If anything, they Stakar's faction of Ravagers hated Yondu's because of Yondu picking up Quill as a kid.
They gave him the fireworks. They were fine.
Yeah, yeah, they were paying respect to Yondu and letting them know. And sure, you could be civil at a funeral, but at the same time, you don't necessarily like the group of people that are letting you know that that person died.
That scene just reminded me of the Rathtar scene in The Force Awakens, where they show up and they're just all over Han Solo. I'm like, this also doesn't make a lot of sense, but okay.
Did you catch the red creature that had the Doctor Strange type magic?
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty interesting. So I'm wondering if during the Endgame battle, this is my bro math, right? During the Endgame battle, because the Ravagers fought alongside everyone, maybe that person, or maybe they were at Kamertage already, and then they decided like, oh, these guys are pretty cool. I'm gonna go off with them, and that's how he had his magic. Like
His magic also let him make emojis. So I don't know.
explain. What do you mean?
You didn't see the smiley face emoji that he made?
Oh yeah. Of course, yeah. I thought you were talking about something different. Well, yeah. I mean, it's magic, dude. Like it's wizardry that you can practice.
They make their way with the Ravagers. They get the info. They get Gamora to go with them, which seemed completely unnecessary. Was I the only one that was like, that doesn't make sense? That she needed to go. She could have just given them the information. If she's
Yeah.
so weirded out and sexually harassed by Quill all the time, why did she get on that ship?
That's true. That's true. But you need to have her with the Guardians, right?
I mean, you do, but like, that was just lazy writing.
Hmm. I can't say it's lazy writing, right? Because James Gunn had his vision. The only thing that I can say is that he needed to get that all together because he didn't write Infinity War or Endgame. So he needed to be able to get these people back together because originally this movie was supposed to be released. Was it before Endgame or after Endgame? I can't remember, but it was supposed to come out well before 2023. It's just because of some delays, and then also him getting fired. Obviously, that is a that is something that was not anticipated. So he kind of had to roll with the punches on that.
Yeah, that's. I get what you mean. I get what you mean. Again, I just don't think that her. I didn't love the reasoning, but I did love the fancy uniforms they all got.
The blue, red, and orange and
The
stuff.
the basically they were almost the spacesuits from like 2001: A Space Odyssey, right? They had some pastels to them and that, and I loved the button. You had to be a guitarist to be able to use the communicators,
as
which
they
is
jump as they jump out of the spaceship, though, Space Hogs in the meantime plays. At that point, man, I'm bopping my head in the theater, tapping my foot, just having a good time with the soundtrack. Like I did actually, you know what? I didn't even love that song back in the day. I liked it, but that made me just remember, like, oh man, I remember this in seventh grade. I remember just rocking out to this in the car and everything, or in my room. Such a fun song, and the fact that it fits perfectly with this scene in the movie is so
yeah.
much fun, and it's a fun song, and they're just bouncing in their little anti-gravity type or gravity type of atmosphere, and you notice how Mantis can never fall correctly. She's
Yeah.
always just so fucking goofy. There's a couple like mean spills that she takes
Yeah.
every time.
No. I I I thought it was hilarious that she's always just spiraling out of control.
Yeah. For someone who can control people's emotions, she cannot control her physical body just
Not at all.
by jumping up and down or falling anywhere.
Oh man. But she always used to just stand behind ego. I mean, what else was there?
She could have tricked her own mind to say that she was confident or a gymnast or something. I don't know.
You could have told herself she's Spider-Man, but it wouldn't mean it's the truth.
Yeah, yeah. But the mind is more powerful than the body, so you never know. But speaking of Mantis and her powers, there's a scene in that little biomass planet that they were on,
The
where
super weird butthole,
the yeah, I guess
the
I didn't
sphincter
think of a
dome.
butthole, but yeah, if that's what you want to think about,
I'm
go for
just
it.
all I saw was this big little round situation, and I'm just like, man, what do we got here?
Your mind's on butts and the hole in between it. So
You know, maybe I just had to poop when I was watching this movie. I don't know.
the I love when her and Drax go off on their little side quest, and I love the fact that they partner up with each other because they fit so well together. But when she tells the little concierge guy that you're madly in love with Drax, and it's just a funny scene, and Drax just like he's like all shy and bashful about it, and he's just like, yeah, I'm Drax the Destroyer. He's such a good
It,
actor. Dave Bautista did such a great job with his range in this movie. I'll watch him in anything.
I agree. I feel like they gave the impression that that's not the first time she's done that,
Right.
and they make you want a Drax and Mantis show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I would watch a Drax and Mantis
I mean,
space hijinks.
we got a good taste of that in the Christmas special, and it was fun. It was so much fun, and
I
you get to
agree.
see a little bit more of that in this movie, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case.
No, no.
Batista's done. He said he is like over it, and he just doesn't. He's not a big fan of Marvel. I guess with them not calling him back for the What If series, and also just them firing James Gunn, he wanted to stand by his guy. So there's no love lost there. I don't think. I think he's done. He's happy with not having to wear that makeup.
Yeah, there's this little thing called money, though. That
Batista's over 50 years old, and if they bring him back, I mean, he'll be close to 60 by the time that they would bring like a Guardians project in. Like that's tough to swallow, man. I think
I mean,
that's a
how
tough one.
old is The Rock at this point?
Like early 50s.
That man still gets brought into everything, baby.
Yeah, but he's not as Batista's not as universally loved as The Rock is.
Hmm.
And
I
The
don't know.
Rock has the Iron Paradise where he's clanging and banging, So Batista, as well of a specimen as he is, I don't think he's rocking the Iron Paradise at 4 o'clock in the morning every day like Dwayne is.
I mean, but they're both on the same cocktail of steroids and testosterone, I'm sure.
I don't think so. The Rock has his own special bartender for the cocktails he takes because
I mean, that guy is that's woo, Dewey.
uh, so crazy, so
Mm.
crazy. Um, but here's something that I want to ask you. So we've got Rocket who's potentially dying, right? They go to rescue their friend, and this scene where they get found out, where they're getting shot at, Drax Batista takes like a heavy shot to the chest, and you see Mantis kind of fearing for his life. Do you think that he's gonna be offed right there because he takes the one shot to the chest and then another shot to the back? Do you think at the time that Drax is gonna die here?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, maybe they're not going to kill Rocket. They're going to kill all of them. Like it looked like they were setting him up for some dying.
Yeah, like a heroic type of
Yeah.
we're gonna go save our friends, but they don't really get anything of substance because the code that they're looking for isn't even where they wanted to get it. So it's missing. And so I thought at that point, I'm thinking like, oh, Drax is gonna die, and like I've got my mouth open, like just, oh no, what is this? It is this it for Drax? And yeah, apparently he's okay.
Yeah, they didn't find the info in the plumbus, which was very disappointing. But yeah, they all got out of there pretty quick. Um, after Quill sweet talked the chick that he was already going to sweet talk, which I think that he's had good luck with pink skinned women in the past, right? Like if throwback to the first Guardians, he's like, I got this. They dig me.
That's
Um,
immediately what I thought. I was
yeah,
like,
yeah. Oh, it's her sister. It's fine.
he's gonna try to fuck her.
Nebula, watch this.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh man.
but but yeah, I definitely thought it was funny enough there, and they hacked Nathan Fillion's little blob suit, the closest thing to Clayface we've ever seen in the MCU, even though he's a DC character. Like the weird, like foamy, blubbery situations that were going on there. I'm like, where's the helmet? Like, I want the full like death to Smoopy situation. Let's go.
I like that Nathan Fillion was in that. Now I'm just thinking, oh my god, it's TDK, the detachable kid. I love that James Gunn just recycles the same actors. He's like, if you're friends with him, like, hey, come on board, man. I got a part for you. And I was wrong in my original prediction. Michael Rosenbaum was back as one of the Ravagers, which was pretty sweet to see.
Dude, they brought a lot of people back though.
Yeah,
Eventually, I don't know how much we want to jump around, but Howard the Duck, the Collector, everybody was pretty
the
great.
Collector
Even
wasn't there.
he was at the poker game.
No.
Oh, not the Collector. Sorry,
That's the
the one
broker, or
from,
whatever his name
yeah,
is.
that guy.
Yeah,
Either way, the guy that was gonna buy the first Infinity Stone.
yeah.
You'd love to see that, and they got everybody together, which was cool. But they finally let Groot drive, and now we know that he didn't have a permit. Because man, that was this. You're just thinking they're gonna kill the Bowie at that point.
Which
Um,
I'm disappointed they didn't have another ship. Which, by the way, didn't look anything like from what I remember from Endgame. So that's why I was thinking, like, oh god, it better be the fucking Locklear. I'm like praying for it. Like, oh, that would be so sweet if they had a different name for that.
you can't you can't not have it be the Bowie. He's the
Yeah, you can.
Starman.
You can, because there's a different ship every movie. So they should have had a different ship.
He's the Star Lord. He needs the Bowie. It just works. It's on the Zune, baby.
So Milano, Benatar, Bowie. One of those things just doesn't belong here. One of those things just isn't the same. So it should have been the Locklear, or it should have been the Farah, or something like that.
But Benatar transitioned him into music.
That's fine.
Mm.
But that's like cars. Cars are always named after women. So ships, I would assume, would be the same way. So, like I said, I will say that the Bowie was the wrong name for those ships. You could have had the Locklear. You could have had the freaking Ginger or Marianne, for God's sakes. It could have been something different.
Yeah, no, I dug the Bowie just because of all the Ziggy Stardust references, so I was good with it.
Yeah, but could have had a different ship. If anything, for merchandise purposes, you should have had some other ship. They had the Bowie for 3 movies: Infinity War, Endgame, and Love and Thunder. Too much, man. Too much.
That just means they didn't get messed up, so that's a good thing.
Well, they should have had a different one for toys.
So technically they did have a different ship. It was called Nowhere.
Yeah. Which that's kind of cool that planet was now a moving Star Killer base, if you will.
There's a lot of death, and it was in the stars. I don't know what you could call it. It also looked like it was not operational. So
Yeah.
definitely definitely a little bit of snippy. Oh, I like this idea. Let's just use George Lucas's best space plans.
I think I will go out on a limb and say this is probably more of a complete series than Star Wars. Like the 9 movies of Star Wars, I think these 3 movies for Guardians of the Galaxy, and you could factor in a little bit of like Infinity War and Endgame, probably more complete than Star Wars. More complete.
I would disagree, because if you're gonna add all the ancillary content in, Star Wars is very complete.
But we're not adding in the ancillary characters. You want to know why? Because they never completed the story for any of them.
But they did, and then they had to retcon it all.
Who did they bring in as ancillary characters and completed their story?
They did like a whole so yeah. Backing up to Star Wars and focusing on the OG trilogy. Prequels, there were books going on for years.
I'm not talking about books. I'm talking about movies.
You can't talk about movies.
I'm talking about a movie right now, and I talk about movies every week on this podcast.
I think that the success of the MCU is based around one person having creative control, and the MCU it started and finished with that same person. Now you're talking about control and writing changing multiple times in this, and people not even finishing their own movies.
Fine, go back to the original trilogy then.
I think the original trilogy takes you through a whole journey. It actually takes, I would say that Han in the original trilogy takes the same journey as Quill in these 3 movies.
Disagree, and I don't see that at all. What type of complete storyline does Han Solo have? He's a guy that doesn't want to help, then he doesn't want to help, and he falls in love with someone,
and then he's a general
helps.
And then he's a general, baby.
The shittiest general in the rebel battalion.
I would say that general rallied the natives to take on a much more technical and advanced war machine, and changed the course of the galaxy forever.
Princess Leia did that, not Han Solo.
No, she was too busy getting shot.
She got the natives, she got the Ewoks on their side. If it wasn't for her, they would not be fighting.
If it wasn't for her, they wouldn't have got captured.
Well, I don't know. That's another reason why that movie is shit. It's not better than Empire. Even though I used to think that it was. Oh,
it totally is. It's okay. You can be wrong. It's fine.
Nah. I'm all right. Well, let's go back to Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's go back to the good, more complete movies.
Oh.
But seriously though, like you have that scene where Drax you think is gonna die. I think every character, they do some type of scare. Where Nebula in that first scene where Warlock just beats the shit out of her, you kind of get that scare like, oh my god, he might just kill a bunch of people right here, right now.
I mean, Mantis breaks her arm and is getting beat down.
Yeah.
Drax is getting pummeled like he's the Hulk versus Thanos. They definitely give you multiple scares and all the hype going into this that somebody's going to die. They even show you the limp Quill doll in the trailers, and you're like, oh man, at the end is he just and you think that that's at the end, and then they open it that way. So this whole movie has this subtle, somber overtone and this like feeling like something bad's gonna happen.
Do you like that feeling and do you like that tone?
So I'm not like looking for it, but I appreciate it in this setting because like there's been so many shitty endings to stories, right? The Game of Thrones ending, stuff like that where you're just like, this could be so good. I love all these characters. Oh, this sucked. Right. So I like the fact that I'm concerned. It draws me into the plot more. That you're like, oh man, are they gonna what how are they getting out of it? Right. It gives them that last bit of it gives our last level of concern for them before they're not in movies anymore. So I liked it and it kept me engaged. It's not something you get a lot in the MCU, right? You get sunshine and rainbows a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to have something with a little bit of a different tonality.
Do you think this movie is family friendly?
That depends on your definition of family friendly. Do you think Back to
As
the Future is family friendly?
I would say so, but um, it is kind of weird that he goes back in time to fuck his mother, doesn't it?
I mean, so Back to the Future has cuss words in it, has a bunch of sexual references. Like there's a lot of stuff in Back to the Future where like I don't remember this part,
yeah.
right? Like, whoa.
Or you didn't get it at the time when you were
Yeah,
that
you
young.
didn't get it. Or like, when did they cuss in Back to the Future?
See, I think there's a difference between like Back to the Future and Volume 3 because Back to the Future is more family friendly because there's some jokes in there that people or like kids would not get. Kids will understand sadness. Kids will understand animal abuse and cruelty. Kids will understand people getting shot and almost close to dying, or even people saying like, "Oh my God, he's dying." Like so it's interesting because I had a tough time watching this movie and keeping my emotions on an even keel.
Yeah, I was surprised I didn't get super emotional until the end.
Really? So not at all
Yeah.
during the movie were you like close to being teary eyed or anything like that?
Not until the part of the ending.
Hmm. All right. So something we haven't talked about yet is Rocket's backstory and his little Wonder Pet friends. So you got Lila, Teefs, and Floor. So you didn't feel any type of emotion after Lila gets shot, and he's just sitting there like wailing and crying. No feeling at all.
No, no.
Really interesting, interesting. You know what got me was that part, but not just that, but the high evolutionary's reaction to Rocket just wailing, because then he starts to do wah wah wah, like almost like that parent or person that's sick of a little kid or a baby crying, where they just
Yeah.
get so fed up. There was like, okay, we get it, you're crying, like, and then they start to mock them, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, whoa, this guy's a fucking prick. Like, good God.
I mean, luckily he gets his comeuppance really quickly after that.
Yeah,
And I
immediately.
think more shitty parents need to get their faces bitten off.
Yeah, right. But right after that, then Rocket, he goes into his little feral mode and he goes into almost his instant bounty hunter mode where he picks up a gun, he knows how to use it and shoots the guys. But then his little Wonder Pet friends are dead and shot right behind him.
I was wondering how they're getting the Wallace out of there, to be honest. I was like, man, how are they gonna roll Teefs out of there? Oh, no need. We're good. We're
Yeah.
good.
So not even there, you were sad.
I mean, you kind of knew they were gonna die. You've never seen them before.
Interesting though, like if you watch or rewatch the first one where he's in prison, and you know how it has like the little stats of everybody.
Yeah.
Apparently, he had known, I think like known accomplices or something, whatever was there. Lila was one of them. So I caught that on my review of the first one, which is interesting. Like okay, so how does apparently that's nothing ever happened. Like they never went on like any adventures. But the 89P13 was mentioned in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. 89P13 calls himself Rocket. So it's kind of cool that it's all well built. It's so tight. Gunn kept his story pretty consistent all across the board. That might just be the lone hiccup as to like, oh, well, what was that whole thing with his known accomplices is Lila? Like that's the only one, right? But cool little shout out, or at least an Easter egg for those in the comics. And it's nice. It's nice that he pays that close attention to the details.
Yeah, no, Gunn is a great writer. I'll give you that. And I definitely think that he has the ability to have all this continuity because he's just going back to back to back. It's like he put the sketch together ahead of time. And yeah, he did. I will give you that he got Ryan Johnson when they killed or took away the love interest thing, but it seems like he knew about it. Like I would guess that they talked about this ahead of time.
Yeah, yeah, but wouldn't that just fucking suck as a director and writer that like, wait a second, you're gonna kill this person? Ah, fuck. Well,
Or did you already tell the love story and you needed a different plot device to explore to get more depth into Quill?
yeah,
Or it's a
maybe.
blessing.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I guess I would be kind of bummed. Like, it's not his character, right? But he had his vision for the three movies, and I'm pretty sure that that was at least thought of, or at least a rough draft prior to the Russos, or who, um, Marcus McFeely,
Yeah.
writing and all that stuff.
But you always knew the soul stone they'd have to give somebody up.
Yeah, but did it have to be Gamora? I guess. I don't know. I don't know who else he would have given up for it. He can't toss one of his other children down there. Nebula, maybe? I don't know.
It wasn't going to be Nebula.
Because he didn't love her. True.
There you go, buddy.
But, well, speaking of love, let's talk about the friendship of the Guardians and like what did we learn from all these characters and throughout the movies, but specifically in this particular movie, what did we learn about them, like their character growth and their overall dynamic as a team?
The one thing that I pulled from it is I feel like we learned that their relationship isn't as tight as we may have been led to believe in the second movie. Like there's infighting, there's grudges, there's these little things that they've been together for so long in space that they need some space, if you will.
Yeah, it's they really are a family though. I think that they'll always have each other's backs, even though that they kind of just are so annoyed with each other. And that's like, isn't that like the true definition of family? Like you can be annoyed to shit of your family members, but if anyone ever threatens them or there's potential danger for them, you'll be there to protect them. Or at least, you would think that a good family member would be.
No, I hear what you're saying. I think that is very valid. That dysfunction is a characteristic of family, and if any group is dysfunctional, it's this one.
Yeah. And every time they come together, it's when there's some type of major risk involved, right? In this case, it happens to be like the most ultimate risk of, okay, uh, and Quill says, like, it's my best friend, I need to go save him. It's interesting because, as I was saying before, and you were saying like they're not as tight as it seems to be, but yet he keeps on referring to him as his best friend.
His second
And
best friend.
according to Drax, but they're all. I don't know if I pick up the whole best friend thing, but if you look back at the previous movies, then you do. So I think that there might be a little bit of an issue there where it's if you haven't seen the third, or I'm sorry, if you haven't seen the first and second movie, you don't get as much of an appreciation for what they're saying because they've been on so many adventures. They've fought a war against someone who is going to kill half of the universe. So it's a tough pill to swallow for those who are not the big MCU fans, or if they haven't seen everything, or even if they haven't seen the Christmas special. Do you get that same type of feeling for the Guardians?
I think that
Probably not.
Marvel's reached that point. Marvel's reached that point where they can't do a movie that sits on its own unless it's a reintroduction or a new introduction of a character, right? Like Captain Marvel, the first one, like that stood on its own because it was a new character. But if it's not a new character, like, are you going to get it? There's a lot of movies on the slate coming up that are not like first timer friendly, you
Yeah.
know? And that is really starting to be heard loud and clear. And I think that you make a great point that if we don't, that they're relying on the audience to understand the characters to add the proper depth. You could have just called out the reason that superhero movies are on a little bit of a decline.
I am a little bit surprised at how I caught myself in the theater that I'm just like, is this too many jokes? Was this necessary? Was Nathan Fillion's comments about his idiot subordinate, like, was it too much? It's funny as hell, but at the same time, like, mm, I like how clever this is, but does this fit within everything? Because it keeps coming up. And but he does a very good job of blending in that serious and sad tone and then flat out violence, because when you think about the flat out violence, you've got Adam Warlock who like melts down someone when Aisha says show him we mean business, and he just
Yeah, that
fucking
was
disintegrates
nuts. That was fucking nuts.
You also have Gamora who's like fucking Martin Riggs from Lethal Weapon, and she's just a loose cannon, and instead of just like trying to negotiate with people, she just fucking shoots James Gunn's wife's leg right there, and she's just like screaming. It's like holy shit, she didn't even hesitate to just shoot this lady. It was just shocking but funny at the same time.
Yeah, I think that this movie had a great balance, but that helped with not knowing context. I don't know. I still think that context thing is a big piece, but seeing where all these characters were and seeing the rifts, even the rifts between Drax and Mantis, right? Where they've obviously done this song dance before and they're getting sick of each other. I think that it gave us a lot clearer context picture about where we were with the Guardians than where the sunshine and rainbows aspect may have been perceived, right? Pre as Guardians of the Galaxy.
What about, who we haven't really talked about too much is the high evolutionary.
Oh, you
Uh,
mean one of the main characters? We skipped that for the last like hour.
well, the villain, but I'm okay with skipping him because we love our guardians. But what are your thoughts on the high evolutionary?
I'd never heard of the character from a comics perspective. I like that they brought somebody in that could help tell the Rocket story in very tight detail. I think it's a flawed character in that they're so worried about perfection that they're also expect perfection from themselves as they seek perfection. And seeing this person struggle with understanding why he's creating intellect better than his own, um was definitely interesting, at least to me. The other interesting part is he didn't try any other raccoons, right? Because they were all still there at the end and they're all the same size. But it's just like, oh well, it seems like you stopped at one raccoon that there's no method there. What are you doing? I wanted to
Yeah.
see Rocket on Booster or something like that, right? Whatever you named the other raccoon, right? I wanted to see a Trash Panda War, but that didn't happen.
The actor who played it, I cannot pronounce his name, so I'm not going to even attempt to butcher it. But I thought he was so good at his execution and delivery because at the very beginning, as he's talking to little baby Rocket and kind of teaching him, it's like, yes, that's right. It's like a preschool teacher. He's like kind of cheering him on. Yeah, that's right. I'm explaining some stuff to you, and you're a very smart boy or you're a very smart raccoon. And then he has this like passive aggressiveness to him to where it's like, oh, huh, that's kind of interesting. And then he's just flat out fucking mean. And so I think that guy who I'm sorry, I will not pronounce his name incorrectly just out of respect to the actor, but he is so dedicated and executes his role so well in the limited, and I will say limited, time that he has on the screen because it's not a whole lot. But
No,
his range of emotions and his delivery, oh my god. I haven't seen anything that good since Brolin as Thanos.
he does play the narcissistic Bond villain well, and I
Mm,
enjoyed
you
that.
you say that as if because Bond villains are kind of cheap and formulaic.
Oh, I mean, he still followed a lot of the tropes, right?
Well, shouldn't you as a villain?
Well, yeah, but you just called me out for saying something that was formulaic, and then you agreed that there should be a formula. So
Well,
you
no, no,
can't
no.
have it
I'm
both
not.
ways.
I'm not saying you saying he was formulaic. You were saying that he was a Bond villain. Like, well, Bond villains are kind of shitty. They there is no good James Bond villain
I would
that has
disagree.
depth. I should say.
Well, I don't know how much depth the guy had. He was just a narcissist. He was a
Mm,
narcissist who was angry that he was wrong
right,
and
but
got showed up.
the
The
delivery of
acting
that
was
stuff.
great. The acting was amazing. The character was easily readable. The acting was great. You know what I will say? I agree with you. Best Marvel villain since Thanos. And that might be because I'm biased against Kang, but I don't give a shit. This guy, cooler than Kang.
I like Kang, but I think High Evolutionary was definitely a very worthy villain, and I don't think he falls into that shallow villain archetype as what Marvel is known for, where they have a shitty villain.
There aren't many shitty villains though. Like even I don't know. I enjoyed him. I enjoyed him. I thought the acting was amazing. I also will not butcher the name, but I thought it was a wonderful performance. I enjoyed it. I thought there was some range there and some emotion that you definitely felt the palpable anger and confusion and embarrassment and all those things. In the early version of the character, in the pre-Skeletor phase, in the post-Skeletor phase, you got so much anger,
Yeah.
and I like that there was difference there as well.
What did he think of like the final showdown between him and the Guardians?
I don't understand what his powers are.
So he came up with some type of machinery to be telekinetic, essentially. That's what it seemed like.
So why wouldn't you force choke them?
Well, I don't know if they have force like telekinesis over air or their their skin or flesh, I guess. I don't know. And if you force choke someone, well, that's just like choking someone. Someone can come up behind you and then just beat the shit out of you, I guess.
Not if you force choke multiple.
Oh yeah, but
That's telekinesis, Kyle.
has
Mind
anyone
bullets.
has any of the Sith ever force choked multiple people? I don't
I
think I've ever seen that.
I mean, if you could lift multiple things with your head, you could crush multiple windpipes.
Yeah, theoretically, but I've never seen a Sith do it. So, Mr. Resident
Luke
Jedi,
did it.
did he?
When he went in a Jabba's palace, he choked two Gamorrean guards at the same time.
Hmm.
They both went.
Wait, did
But
he
yeah,
do it with like two hands or just like one hand?
one hand.
Hmm.
Mind bullets, Kyle.
I don't remember that at all. Huh.
Well, you got to watch the best Star Wars movie.
So no Sith did it though.
I mean, I would assume that it has been done by the Sith.
You would assume, but I don't know if we've ever seen that on film.
Mhm. Not on film, but Alkalite comes out later this year, so you might. You may be privileged.
All right then. With that final battle, it's cool to see how well they work together to take somebody down, because the high evolutionary doesn't even, I don't even think he really gets a hit off on those guys. It's more so like when he's throwing rocket around because he's so frustrated at him, when he's all alone. But I think once they all team up together, no one touches him, right?
Yeah, no, it was weird. He was weirdly underpowered to fight that group. And I don't understand why like the gold guy didn't just take him out, because he obviously could have, right?
Well, he was already out of commission at that point.
I meant earlier in the movie when he was threatening the gold race. He could have just fucking taken him out and
Yeah,
made him ribs, made him
yeah,
a burnt
but
corpse, because he did not have the power ability.
well, he didn't have the maturity to do something about it. He's a
It-
simpleton.
you know,
So
they're
that's,
all beautiful idiots.
I think that's a good reason as to why Adam Warlock works, is because if he's that powerful, what's the purpose of him? Just like the Hulk, right? Like if you have the Hulk, like why do you need any other Avenger? He could just beat the shit out of everyone. But it's because the Hulk is a loose cannon. He can't really control his emotions and his anger, so his anger blinds him. Same thing with Adam Warlock, is that he's so strong, but he is such a simpleton. He can't really effectively fight against everyone because he doesn't have the maturity to grasp of when he should fight, how he should fight, in certain situations.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. But again, I didn't, this fight was definitely, it was like, let's get through this fight so we can start the descent. Like they needed to get past the conflict because you knew they were gonna win. Let's see what we could do. We want to do this flying space Leia Quill scene real quick. So let's get to that.
Well, you know what I think, what could be a explanation as to why that scene unfolded the way it did against the High Evolutionary is that, so very, friends look out for each other. I think this was a cool way for Rocket to face his oppressor, and then his friends come in to back him up. Because a lot of times in the other fights, they back each other up, but I don't think to this degree, right? It's almost as if like, Rocket, it's okay, we got you. We're gonna team up, and you finally get a chance to see the Guardians like really, really, like almost assassin level type of team ups where they're taking out the bad guy. And I think it's just like it's awesome because they're sticking up for their friend who was on his deathbed at death's door, and they come in and they show their expertise, and they do their powers, and they do what they do best.
I think there's a lot there, right? And it I don't know. I was excited to get past that. And then they decide to save everybody. And you get the conquering hero, the good dog, the Cosmo, that comes in and uses his puppy force to his puppy telekinesis to hold the ship together, and they just, oh, we got to get all the kids because Drax loves kids, which I was very, that was the start of the unraveling of my emotions. The, oh, Drax used to be a daddy again. And then they moving all these people out of there, and then you see the cage of unaged Oregon trash pandas.
I mean, it could have been like another batch. I don't think they just stayed the same age and size. They're from America, so I doubt it's the same. It's the same raccoons.
I don't know, man. Rocket got his family.
Well, he saved a bunch of raccoons. I
He
wouldn't
did.
say he
He
got
did.
his family.
He did save a bunch of raccoons.
But no, I take it back. He did get his family. He got a family. Unfortunately, like they went their separate ways, but it was a mutual respect. But we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. So we talked a little bit about the that showdown. What did you think about Quill when he was frozen in space? I thought he was dead for sure. I thought, oh my god, he's dead. They killed him.
They weren't going to kill him because he went back for his iPod. All right, his Zune. They weren't going to do that. I'm like, oh, they're doing the space Leia thing. Awesome. Wonder where he got that. And then they bring him in, and he's okay, because you knew he was half celestial. He's gonna be all right.
Yeah, but his celestial powers were gone after Ego was killed.
I guess. You know what I want to know? Where was his helmet? The whole movie.
I, for some reason I remember that it was damaged or broken, and so that's why it never came back.
Or his rockety boots.
That's what I don't know about the rockety boots, but I feel like his helmet was damaged in like Endgame or something. Do you remember that? Because he had his helmet when he came back, but then it was gone after that. You never saw it after that, so maybe it got damaged in the battle.
But if Rocket upgraded Nebula, upgraded the ship, upgraded everything, he couldn't get the Star-Lord mask going.
Maybe he didn't want it. Maybe he just wanted to drink himself stupid.
Mm.
He never had it during Thor: Love and Thunder, right? I don't remember, but
I don't either. I
think I
gotta
saw
go
it.
back. I thought he did.
No, maybe. I don't remember seeing it, but yeah.
Maybe Thor has it now.
Yeah.
But
He
either
did.
way, like,
Thor did let him have his ship, so
I don't know. I thought that was you know, there was all these rumors they were going to kill somebody off, but I did not think he was going to die there.
you didn't think at the point where his body just like bloated up and was all
They
frozen
have
and
med
shit?
packs, bro.
Yeah, I know. Which then it made me think, why didn't they save Yondu that way?
Because Rocket hadn't invented him yet. And
Adam
Yondu
Warlock
wasn't part celestial.
Yeah, I don't know. That to me is like I like the fact that each and every one of the Guardians, you think they're gonna die at some point. The only exception, because she wasn't a Guardian essentially, is Gamora. But everyone else had like a near-death experience, or you thought that they were gonna die.
Yeah. I agree. I don't know. I think that there's a lot of potential in what happens after this, and doing some one-offs and bring back. There's a lot of what ifs too that could come from this, which I love. But I think that after they resolve this, they broke up the band. You know,
What were your
I mean,
thoughts on that?
so there was foreshadowing about Quill's disappointment and that he would maybe go back to Earth. I thought for some reason the High Evolutionary was going to just start moving towards Earth, right? He destroyed other Earth. So now let's take these things to Earth. Like, I thought there was going to be a direct Earth threat for a minute. And maybe that's because he had the pulled face from a Star Trek movie where they, you know, went after a planet and stuff like that. So who knows? But yeah, I thought that they were going to go there. So seeing Quill go, like, I don't think you were surprised, and you knew they had to put a bow on this somehow. But um the the moment that got me was the Drax, you're meant to be a dad thing, or a fun dad. I was like, oh, and my wife like started poking me, and I'm just like, thanks a lot. Um, so that's when I was just like, oh man. But when he go, they do Drax. Mantis says, I need to be independent, and takes her Rathtars with her, whatever they're called. I don't know what they're
Red
called.
tires.
But it looks exactly like a Rathtar, like almost identical to the things in Force Awakens. Um so she goes out on her own. Nebula now oversees. It is definitely an interesting corporate structure there, but Quill taking time, and Quill going back and getting the grandpa scene, and that killed me. That was just
So
cried like a bitch.
I ugly cried at that part.
Yeah,
And
same.
like
Uncontrollably ugly cried.
I had my hand like this so my family
Nope.
wouldn't see me. And then on the second viewing, I had my hoodie up strategically. But luckily I had the 3D glasses on too. So I had the hoodie on pretty much the entire time, knowing that like, I got pretty emotional the first watch of this movie. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have the hoodie up just in case that happens in the second time. But 3D glasses was nice, and there's some strange dude sitting right next to me. So I'm like, oh fuck, am I gonna be able to enjoy this movie, or at least be able to either conceal my emotions as this is
Dan,
going through?
Dan, just let it out, baby. Nobody's here to judge you. You're never gonna see that weird guy again.
Yeah, right. But I was surprised at it still got me the second time,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
wow, like I want to kind of go back to the whole announcement, because like you see how like Rocket is so sad. He's like, "Well, is this it? Are we just we're done?" Like it's just like your friends when you get together when you're younger, and you're all having so much fun, and then someone has to go, and then someone else says like, "Yeah, I should probably go home too." It's like, what? We're done? Like we're not going to play anymore? Like come on, there's still some daylight. Like it's almost that level of childish disappointment and sadness that's like, no, we're having fun. We should stay together. We should continue to play. Like that's what I equivalated it to, is just because of Rocket's, as smart as he is still very immature when it comes to dealing with these serious types of things.
I think you're to the point where it's just like you don't know the good old days or the good old days until they're gone. And
Yeah,
Rocket's dealing with that level of not loss but change.
yeah.
And he's a sad panda, a sad trash panda.
But I liked everyone's explanation of what they were going to do and why they were going to do it. So what started with everything was, and oh holy shit, man! I have to give a huge shout out to James Gunn and also Florence and the Machine, because what a perfect song and what perfect placement for this movie, for that scene of everyone celebrating, but also it's a very still somber, sad tone of
Mhm.
people leaving. You're leaving your friends, you're leaving your family, which is, it's tough. Any way you cut it, it is super tough. But that music, oh my God, so cool. I loved every second of it.
The whole soundtrack was just, I think this was the best. We talked about it the last time, which Guardians had the best soundtrack. I think it's this one.
Do you think it's because a lot of it is, it's more of our nostalgia, not just oldies, but our true songs that we listened to when we were kids, and it brings us back to some of those memories?
I do appreciate the amount of Beastie Boys that was in this movie.
Ooh,
I have not
really?
been this excited by Beastie Boys in a movie since the first Pine Star Trek.
Well, that was cool, but did you not like it, or did you not kind of cringe where it's like, yep, I just fucking heard this in Mario Brothers.
No, no.
Uh, I
I
didn't like
it,
it. I didn't
to
like
your
it.
point of nostalgia, like, dude, License to Ill came out right during the impressionable years. Love me some Beasties.
Uh, I was not a fan of that song at that particular time.
Oh.
I would have loved Sabotage, which I know is like overused in like
Yeah.
every fucking movie, but uh, I wasn't. I didn't want No Sleep Till Brooklyn there. Not to say that's a bad song. I just heard it in Mario Brothers, and that kind of made sense for it to play there. So, yeah.
They didn't know it was in Mario Brothers, buddy.
Right, right. But you notice that like for James Gunn, he rarely has a miss. I even like that weird ass song when they went to Counter Earth, that like the whatever freaking
Yeah.
language they were singing, and that it was so much fun and I enjoyed it thoroughly. But yeah. But that end scene, everything tied together so well, and the way that it was edited, like when the slow part of the song goes in and Quill is walking to his grandpa's house and like try to keep it together. I'm trying to keep it together. And then he says, Grandpa, and then they give a hug, and then the music starts going again and again and again. It's like, the emotions right now are running high.
I agree. It was but even like as they do the epilogue, right, with the new Guardians and Rocket is the leader, and they show who's left and who's joining, right? They still go back and hit you with that red bone.
Yeah.
And that's another reason that this just got me.
That was a cool callback to it. I will say though, I think they already hit the emotional point of view with Florence and the Machine, but I would have loved to hear the um, oh my god, ain't no mountain high enough.
Mm,
That would have been pretty sweet, but it makes sense, like it makes sense that you start or you end it as you started off with
yeah.
that song. Although, with all the different music, I'm still kind of going back and forth because there's some freaking jams on one. There's some freaking jams on two. Uh, there's a handful. I've been listening to this soundtrack pretty much the first half of this entire week as I'm traveling around for work.
The thing that I'll say is I think that this one just fits the movie better than any other one. I think that it accompanies the cinematic story in ways that 1 and 2 didn't. Like there were great tie-ins, right? But man, the tone and the feel of the movie rested on the soundtrack, and it was perfect. One of the absolute best that there is. I mean, we were really, you mentioned Mario, and it was so cool to see all of those little Easter eggy and pieces, right? Not just Peaches, the rest of it, and it was all solid. But the way that every song just fit and just aligned. I again, I liked Beasties. You weren't a fan, but I mean, it even Badlands during the the uh the the ending was amazing.
Really, I didn't like it.
Oh,
I'm not a big Springsteen fan, but I wasn't a fan of that. Like, I feel like, you had the emotional song at the end, and then you had Redbone. I think you need to have like another happy type song that you're putting a bow on everything. And I don't know if I don't know. I guess I just would have preferred another song to go there instead of that. Well, as we ended the movie, right? And then we got a post-credit scene of the new Guardians headed by Rocket. So we got the lineup of Kraglin, Cosmo, Groot, the size of a fucking house, and Warlock, and Phyla, who is one of the genetically engineered girls from the High Evolutionary. What are your thoughts on that new lineup, and do you want to see them again?
I don't want to see that lineup in a movie. I'm cool if they show up and help, but I really don't like. I I Kraglin is a joke character almost, right? Like I don't think he could support the film piece. Um I think that I don't know enough or have any attachment to the genetically engineered girl. Um Cosmo has done the most effective thing Cosmo is going to do, right? In holding the two things together with telekinesis. Um I think we've seen pretty much every kind of Groot. And time out, rewind. Why did Groot use words?
So he said, "I am Groot."
But he also, what else did he say?
No, he said, "I am Groot." So let me tell you the reasoning as to what happened.
Mhm.
So Gamora, as throughout the movie, she's like, "What? Yeah, I know you said that." So just like Quill in the first one, right? She doesn't understand what he's saying because he keeps on saying, "I'm Groot," and she even makes a there's a throwaway line where she's like, "You guys are just making stuff up. He's just, he's not really saying anything. You're just making that up, right?" And so it isn't until the very end he says, "I am Groot," and she's like, "Yeah, it was nice working with you too." And then she kind of like pauses and she looks at him, and he just kind of smiles. So she started to understand him. So James Gunn actually came out on Twitter and said that yes, the reason why you hear "I love you guys" is because now you understand what Groot's saying. So it's a cooler way to kind of get that line when he says "I love you guys." It's because now, after all of the time that we've spent with the Guardians, we understand what he's saying, and it's now second nature to us when he talks.
No,
Get the fuck out of here if you don't like that explanation.
no. The least, that was the absolute least. That was worse than Maggie Simpson's first words.
Uh,
Unnecessary.
Unnecessary. It's the whole, you don't understand what he says until the very end. Even the "We Are Groot," he said, "I am Groot," but we just got a little bit as to what Groot was
So
saying.
basically, what you're saying is on my deathbed, I gained total consciousness. So I had that going for me. That's what happened at the
I
end of the
don't,
movie, where they're never going to be together again. We received total Groot consciousness. But then when they're fighting later on, we can't understand Groot in the post-credit scene where he says, "I am Groot."
does he say it in the post credit scene?
I believe he does.
I don't remember that at all.
Hmm.
But it's all in context of it to where, like, yeah, you hear Vin Diesel say, "I love you guys." I don't know, man. I think that's perfect for it.
I think it would have been more perfect if Vin Diesel made some kind of comment about family.
No, that would have been too fucking fast and the Furious type.
No.
James Gunn would have been like, nah, let's get that out of there. Let's not do that.
Adam Warlock is the fast and furious one in this film. No speed and anger for anybody else.
But I don't know. I really like that. But that pretty much wraps up for Guardians of the Galaxy. Anything else you want to go over with the characters or anything?
I want to know what you think about that last gasp of Groot, that Ravager remainder of the Guardians. I told you what I thought, but you didn't tell me.
Oh, um, I agree. I don't necessarily need to see it, but I like the fact that if this goes untouched, at least you have Rocket leading a group, which sadly for him, he never got to lead his group of friends on adventures. So now he's the head of the Guardians of the Galaxy with his friends, his family. He gets to go on those adventures. He gets to fly to all those different places out there in the sky, which I think is pretty sweet.
I like your spin on it. He gets by with a little help from his friends.
Yeah. He's so selfish throughout all of those movies. So freaking selfish. But for someone, I can relate to Rocket quite a bit just because I keep people at arm's distance, and I talk shit. I talk mad shit to people. And I have friends, but even though they might not necessarily be uh, close in proximity, or even if they are close in proximity, there's always still that distance. I have my guard up. But I like the fact that Rocket has this self hatred that he got his friends killed. It's really his fault that his friends died. But now, not only did he get a chance to go on multiple adventures with his friends, now he has his own purpose to take his new group of friends on those adventures that he would said he would take his old friends on. And so I think that really completes it. And I'm happy with it, man. I'm not a huge Rocket fan, but this makes it a very satisfying story for me.
So it sounds to me like your answer to a certain question might be affirmative.
I don't know. What is that question, Mark?
I believe that question is, Danny, can you do this movie all day?
I absolutely can, without hesitation, do this movie all day. I don't know if there is. I don't know if there's a better trilogy of movies in the MCU. And I love myself some Captain America, right? But I don't know, because when you take a total look of the body of work, um, Iron Man, Captain America, I'll even throw Thor in at with four movies against the three. I don't know if there's a truly complete type of series. The only thing that would rival it is Endgame, and that included 22 movies to get to that level of
Yeah.
excellence, callbacks, execution, team ups, and everything. Uh, this group of people, I would probably say, is more dysfunctional, but also more cohesive than the Avengers, if that makes sense. I really think that they have each other's backs, and they're a true family and a true group of friends, as opposed to the corporate juggernaut of the Avengers, right? And don't get me wrong, I love myself the
Corporate
Avengers,
juggernaut.
but this is, man, this is better than I ever expected. I thought the first movie was going to be dog shit. I thought the second movie was like, well, this will be pretty good. I liked it even better than the first. I thought the third movie was like, well, this is gonna be good. James Gunn is pretty solid. Blew my expectations out of the water. These three movies have made me more emotional than all of the MCU movies combined. Which
Oh.
for me, that's a high rating. When you have nostalgia, if you can get some type of emotional response out of me, and if I'm having a good time, that to me is an I can do this all day, every day in the books. Mark, what about you? Can you do this all day?
I love the movie. I'm gonna watch it a bunch when it comes to streaming. I'm not going back to the theater for it, but that's just because it'll be on streaming pretty quick, relatively to what things used to be. But yeah, I can do this movie all day. I'm not as romantic about it as you. I wouldn't necessarily put it ahead of like the Cap movies or anything like that. And I think that there's been some really great emotional moments in the MCU over the last like 3-4 years, right? The end of Black Panther, the end of Wakanda Forever. I meant right? Where you meet, baby T'Challa, all of Infinity War and Endgame. Whether it's the end of Infinity, I don't want to go as like, are you kidding me? And the I am Iron Man, you can rest. The Hawkeye's family disappearing at the beginning of the movie, like that movie in and of itself is such an emotional roller coaster. It got me more than this one did, but
Really?
that's splitting hairs. In that this, yeah, it did, it definitely did. But world's in a different place now, I think. But yeah, this movie is quality, and it's sad that we're not going to get this quality again. We're not getting this group. We're not getting this team. We're not even getting them like in ancillary thing. But at least we're getting Star-Lord.
Yeah, that's something we didn't get a chance to talk about is supposedly the legendary Star-Lord will return. Now, whether that's a variant or Chris Pratt will come back. I believe I saw an article saying that he would not come back unless it was for a very good reason. He just doesn't want a cash grab. So I think he'll come out or come back.
Right.
And,
the guy who did 3 Jurassic World movies isn't worried about a cash grab.
well, yeah.
Whatever.
He's also
But
come out with a lot of dog shit too.
Well, as I walked out of the movie, I was talking to my wife, and I'm like, you know what they just did? They just put him on Earth right before they do the Skrulls movie. Right before they do the Imitation Game. And I think that's going to be Secret War.
Oh, you think he'll be in that?
It makes sense. He's there. He's on Earth for it.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. I think you save him for the next Avengers thing. He'll be on Earth, and he'll, it's like, hey, Quill, we need your help, and then he reluctantly suits up. At that point, he'll be a little bit older, but he'll answer the call to be that.
Yeah,
hero.
but who on the Avengers has the relationship with him to ask? Is he going to be Strange?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, they all saved the world together. He was at the funeral with everyone else. So whether it's Captain America, Sam Wilson, or Bucky, maybe he's like, hey, remember when I gave you that arm for Rocket's Christmas gift? I need another favor. I don't know. But I don't know. Maybe it's not even that version of Star-Lord. Maybe it is a variant of Star-Lord that happens to come in, and maybe that's how they go forward with a Guardian of the Galaxy, but not Chris Pratt. Who knows?
Yeah, I just saw Secret Invasion as part of it, so we'll see.
Yeah. All right then. Well, I had fun talking about this. I had fun watching this movie. It's always a pleasure, Mark. But until next time, don't forget to follow us on the socials. But until next time, I'm Dan, the Part-Time Avenger. That's Mark, the Resident Jedi.
We need comments, recommendations. Like it, review us on iTunes. We appreciate your listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.